Maggie Wu's journey in the entertainment industry was one of dazzling success, heartbreaking scandal, and ultimate redemption. From rising as a beloved actress and model in Taiwan to being caught in one of the biggest celebrity controversies, she experienced the highest highs and the lowest lows. The media tore her apart, and for a time, it seemed like her career was over. But Maggie refused to disappear. She reinvented herself, proving that a single scandal doesn't define a person's entire life. Watch her incredible rise, fall, and comeback. Subscribe now for more gripping celebrity stories on our YouTube channel. Maggie Wu was born in 1983 in Taiwan, a place known for its thriving entertainment industry and love for idol dramas. From a young age, she showed an interest in performing, captivated by the glamorous world of television and fashion. With striking beauty, a natural grace, and a warm, engaging personality, she stood out even before she became famous. Growing up, she was drawn to the idea of being in front of the camera, whether as a model or an actress. The early 2000s were a golden era for Taiwanese entertainment, especially for idol dramas, which captured the hearts of young audiences across Asia. It was the perfect time for someone like Maggie to step into the spotlight. She started her career as a model, working for magazines and brands that admired her elegant yet approachable look. Modeling gave her visibility, but it was clear that she had ambitions beyond posing for pictures. She wanted to be on screen, to act, and to become part of the shows that so many people adored. Her breakthrough came when she landed roles in television dramas, the stepping stone for many young Taiwanese stars. Her appearance in shows like Sweet Moment and Knock Knock Loving You introduced her to a much wider audience. These dramas weren't just popular in Taiwan, but had a dedicated following in China, Hong Kong, and other parts of Asia. Maggie's performances made an impression, not necessarily because she was the most skilled actress, but because she had a presence that made viewers want to watch her. She had a charm that worked well for the romantic, lighthearted roles that dominated the genre. With her growing popularity, she started getting more opportunities. Her ability to connect with fans helped her land endorsement deals and guest appearances on variety shows, where her cheerful and charismatic personality shined. She wasn't just another pretty face. She was likable, and that mattered in an industry that thrived on audience engagement. Taiwanese celebrities often needed to build a personal connection with fans through talk shows, interviews, and social media. Maggie understood this well and played the game right, always appearing sweet, approachable, and fun. As her career moved forward, she balanced acting with hosting gigs, another major part of Taiwan's entertainment scene. Hosting required a different skill set, one that relied on quick thinking, humor, and the ability to keep an audience engaged in real time. Maggie adapted to the challenge, proving that she wasn't just someone who looked good on camera, but someone who could keep a conversation flowing, make guests feel comfortable, and entertain a crowd. Being in the public eye also meant constant scrutiny, especially in a culture that closely followed celebrity lives. People admired her for her beauty and talent, but there were always whispers about her personal life, her relationships, and how she managed to rise so quickly in such a competitive industry. In Taiwan, where entertainment news was relentless, any sign of controversy could become a headline. For the most part, though, Maggie maintained a positive image, focusing on her work and staying out of trouble. As she gained fame, she started mingling with elite circles, attending high-profile events, and forming connections with influential people in the industry. This was a natural progression for many rising stars, as networking was key to getting bigger roles and better opportunities. She became associated with Taiwan's celebrity social scene, appearing at glamorous parties and being photographed with other famous personalities. Her image remained that of a successful, independent woman enjoying the height of her career. She had worked hard to get to where she was, and people admired her confidence and the way she carried herself. By the late 2000s, Maggie was a well-recognized name in Taiwanese entertainment. She wasn't necessarily the biggest star, but she had carved out a space for herself as an actress, model, and host. She had built a steady career, avoided major scandals, and stayed relevant in an industry that often discarded young talents as quickly as they discovered them. But fame, especially for women in the entertainment business, was never easy to maintain. The industry was demanding, expectations were high, and any misstep could change everything overnight. At this stage, Maggie seemed to have everything going for her. She had the looks, the charm, and the career momentum to continue rising. She had secured roles in well-loved dramas, collaborated with top brands, and maintained a growing fan base. She represented a kind of modern Taiwanese star, polished but relatable, glamorous but down to earth. It seemed like she was set for long-term success as long as she made the right choices and stayed on the right path. But in an industry where image was everything, even the most carefully crafted reputation could be vulnerable. Maggie had worked hard to reach her status, but fame often came with risks, especially when personal and professional lives started to blur. In the world she was part of, relationships, social connections, and private moments could easily become public scandals. At the height of her career, she was seen as a rising star with a promising future. But no one knew that the biggest challenge of her life was just around the corner. Maggie Wu's career was on a steady climb. She had worked her way up from modeling to acting, gaining fame through popular Taiwanese dramas and variety shows. She had built an image as a charming and glamorous celebrity, the kind of star that audiences admired for both her beauty and her engaging personality. But fame had its costs. In an industry that thrived on gossip and scandals, being in the spotlight meant there was always the risk of things spiraling out of control. For Maggie, that moment arrived in 2012 when her name was suddenly dragged into one of Taiwan's most shocking celebrity scandals. It all started when news broke that Justin Lee, the son of a wealthy Taiwanese businessman, was under investigation for serious crimes. He wasn't just any socialite. He was infamous for his extravagant lifestyle, connections to the entertainment industry, and reputation as a playboy. As authorities dug deeper, they discovered hundreds of secretly recorded videos that allegedly showed Justin with multiple women, many of whom were well-known actresses, models, and entertainers. It was a bombshell that rocked Taiwan's celebrity world. Names started surfacing, and one of the biggest among them was Maggie Wu. The media frenzy was relentless. Within days, her name was everywhere, tied to a scandal that was spiraling out of control. Paparazzi followed her every move. News outlets ran constant coverage, speculating about her involvement, digging up old interviews, analyzing her career, and questioning whether her success had been connected to her relationship with Justin. It wasn't just the Taiwanese media. News of the scandal spread across China and Hong Kong, where she had a growing fan base. There was no escaping it. At first, Maggie tried to stay quiet, hoping the storm would pass. But silence wasn't an option. The internet was flooded with rumors, and the public wanted answers. When explicit photos and videos allegedly featuring her surfaced online, the damage was immediate. Fans turned against her, brands distanced themselves, TV networks hesitated to cast her in future projects. It was as if years of hard work had unraveled in an instant. She denied involvement at first, insisting that she had been a victim of the situation rather than a willing participant. But the accusations didn't stop. The media twisted every statement, making it seem like she had something to hide. Some people believed she had been manipulated, tricked into compromising situations by Justin. Others saw her as someone who had willingly associated with him, knowing full well what he was like. The court case against Justin Lee only made things worse. As details emerged, it became clear that he had been recording his encounters without consent. He was eventually sentenced to prison for his crimes, but by then, the damage to Maggie's career had already been done. Whether she was a victim or not no longer seemed to matter. In the eyes of the public, she was tainted by association. The fallout was brutal. Brands dropped her from endorsement deals. TV stations quietly replaced her with other actresses. Even in variety shows, where she had once been a regular guest, invitations stopped coming. She had gone from being one of the most promising stars in Taiwanese entertainment to someone whose name producers didn't want attached to their projects. The emotional toll was just as severe as the professional one. Friends in the industry distanced themselves. Some people she had once considered close stopped returning her calls, afraid that their own reputations might be damaged by association. She couldn't go out in public without being recognized, but now, instead of admiration, she was met with whispers and judgmental stares. The internet was filled with cruel comments. People calling her names, questioning her character, and speculating about every aspect of her personal life. She considered leaving the entertainment industry entirely. The pressure was overwhelming, and for a while, she withdrew from the public eye. There were moments when she wasn't sure if she could ever rebuild her career. Taiwan's entertainment industry was unforgiving when it came to scandals, especially for women. Male celebrities often had a way of bouncing back, but for female stars, the stain of a scandal could last a lifetime. Maggie had seen others go through similar situations, and she knew how hard it was to recover. But she wasn't ready to give up entirely. After months of silence, she slowly started making public appearances again. It wasn't easy. Every interview felt like a test. Every comment online a reminder of how much had changed. She had to be careful about what she said, knowing that any misstep could reignite the controversy. She focused on rebranding herself, trying to shift the narrative from scandal to resilience. She leaned into social media, where she had more control over her image, posting carefully curated photos and messages about self-growth and moving forward. Some fans remained loyal, but the road back was long. She took on smaller projects, roles that didn't attract as much attention, trying to rebuild her credibility in an industry that had largely turned its back on her. She stayed away from topics related to the scandal, never directly addressing the details, only ever acknowledging that it had been a difficult time. It was a careful balancing act, showing enough vulnerability to seem relatable, but not enough to reopen old wounds. There were moments of hope, signs that she could slowly regain her footing. She started receiving invitations to fashion events, smaller-scale endorsements, and online collaborations. Some brands were willing to work with her again, especially those that catered to audiences less concerned with celebrity gossip. She began to re-establish herself as a public figure, though not in the same way as before. Maggie had to accept that things would never go back to the way they were. The scandal had permanently altered her place in the industry. She would always be associated with it, no matter how much time passed. There would always be people who judged her for it, people who whispered about her behind her back, and articles that rehashed the past whenever she made a public appearance. But she also learned to navigate this new reality. She found ways to stay relevant without relying on mainstream television. Social media became her platform, allowing her to maintain a presence without needing the approval of TV networks or film producers. She explored other ventures, including business opportunities outside of entertainment, knowing that she couldn't rely on the industry forever. Though she had lost much of what she had built, she refused to disappear completely. She had faced one of the biggest scandals in Taiwanese entertainment history and survived, not entirely unscathed, but still standing. And for Maggie Wu, that was enough reason to keep moving forward. Maggie Wu had spent years trying to rebuild her life after the scandal that nearly ended her career. It wasn't easy. The entertainment industry was fickle, and even though time had passed, her name still carried the weight of the past. She had learned to live with it. Instead of trying to erase the stain of the scandal, she focused on reshaping her image, presenting herself as someone who had moved on, someone stronger than the headlines that had once defined her. She had stepped away from mainstream television, knowing that big roles in major productions were no longer within reach. Producers were reluctant to take risks on someone whose past could invite controversy, and she had no interest in forcing herself back into an industry that had so easily cast her aside. Instead, she turned to social media, where she had full control over her narrative. She cultivated a presence as a lifestyle influencer, sharing glimpses of her travels, fashion choices, and personal growth. Over time, people stopped seeing her as just the actress caught in a scandal and started seeing her as a woman who had reinvented herself. Even so, the entertainment world still fascinated her. She missed parts of it, the energy of being on set, the thrill of performing, the excitement of connecting with an audience. But she had come to accept that her path would never look the way she once imagined. That realization gave her a kind of freedom. Instead of chasing roles, she explored other opportunities. She ventured into business, investing in fashion and beauty projects that aligned with her personal brand. She collaborated with companies that saw her as an asset, someone who could attract attention in a way that was no longer tied to controversy. Though she had kept her personal life relatively private in the years following the scandal, she was still occasionally the subject of gossip. Anytime she was spotted with someone, rumors swirled. People speculated about who she was dating, whether she would ever settle down, if she was still connected to people from her past. She had learned not to pay too much attention. The less she reacted, the sooner the speculation faded. But in 2022, she surprised everyone when she announced that she was getting married. Her fiancé was a businessman from Shanghai, someone outside the entertainment industry, far removed from the world she had once been a part of. They had met quietly, away from the cameras and the public eye. Unlike the high-profile relationships she had been linked to in the past, this one was different. It wasn't about status or appearances. It was about stability, about finding someone who didn't care about her past, someone who saw her for who she was now. The wedding was a private affair, a deliberate choice after spending years having her personal life dissected by strangers. She shared only glimpses of it with the public, a few photos, a simple announcement. There were no grand interviews, no attempts to turn it into a spectacle. It was hers, and she wanted to keep it that way. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was stepping into a new chapter without the weight of her past holding her back. Marriage didn't mean she was stepping away from the public eye completely, but it did shift her priorities. She no longer felt the need to prove anything to the industry that had once defined her. She had built a life that existed beyond it, a life that wasn't dictated by casting calls, endorsement deals, or media coverage. She still engaged with her followers, still shared parts of her world, but on her terms. People who had once doubted her ability to move forward had no choice but to acknowledge that she had done just that. She had been through one of the most humiliating scandals in Taiwanese entertainment history, lost almost everything she had worked for, and yet she had come out on the other side. It wasn't the kind of comeback that involved reclaiming old fame, but it was a different kind of success. She had built something real, something lasting. Her story became one of resilience, even for those who had once judged her. Over time, the scandal that had nearly destroyed her became just another footnote in her past. People moved on, new scandals emerged, new stars replaced the ones who had once dominated headlines. The industry had always been that way, but Maggie Wu had found a way to step outside of it, to create a life where she was no longer defined by what had happened to her, but by what she had done since. She had spent years trying to escape her past, but in the end, she realized she didn't need to. She had outgrown it. The people who mattered saw her not for what she had been through, but for who she had become. And that, more than anything, was what she had been fighting for all along. Maggie Wu's story is more than just a scandal. It's a testament to resilience. She lost almost everything, but instead of fading away, she found a new path. Through social media, business ventures, and personal growth, she built a life beyond fame. Now, she lives on her own terms, proving that reinvention is always possible. Her journey reminds us that setbacks don't have to be the end. Want more fascinating stories of stars who rose, fell, and fought back? Subscribe to our YouTube channel for the most compelling celebrity transformations and untold stories.